Hello and welcome to a new edition of Planet Waves TV. I'm Eric Francis, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, reporting in Monday morning at a little past 10 a.m. here with a special update regarding the Aries Equinox. Somehow I managed to forget that in the last edition. I think that was on Thursday, so I said I would be back, and here I am. The equinox takes place at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 19th. So that's about how many hours? 24 plus 12 is 36 hours from now, approximately. And before we get there, over the weekend was the conjunction of the Sun and Neptune. You can see that in the equinox chart because the Sun is in very early Aries and Neptune is in very late Pisces. And over the weekend, the Sun moved through these degrees. And currently, the Sun is in the very late degrees of Pisces. So we had that conjunction of the Sun and Neptune, kind of a very Pisces crescendo to Pisces season. It was a dreamy kind of a chart with all of that overflowing Neptune and Pisces. And now the Sun is what is called void of course. Many people have heard of the Moon being void of course, meaning that the Moon is done making aspects in a sign, but it has not moved into the new sign yet. And by the way, this definition changes over time. You will see different definitions in different epochs of history and different exceptions to the rule. But for now, in our time, and the rule makes sense. You know, it does work for what it's intended to do. The Sun is void of course, and that means that there is no planet with a number higher than the Sun. If you're looking for how to see that, you can look throughout the chart, and you can see that things are concentrated down on the low end. But there's Mars here at 27. The Sun is past that. Eris at 24. The Sun is past that. And then everything else is hanging out in the in the teens or lower. For example, Pluto with 1 degree. Now, to those who are mathophobes, astrology does not require you to do math anymore. Computers do all the math. You have to follow the numbers, though, in terms of the address of the planet. That is what matters, the address of the planet. So this is not like laying out the whole neighborhood, doing surveying and other forms of engineering, but rather just saying which number is lower, which number is higher, what thing moves quicker, and that's easy to find out. And it feels good to be able to just look at the chart and say, I know that Jupiter moves more quickly than Uranus. Therefore, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is approaching. You'll get there. And why do you want to know that? Well, when you know it, suddenly you realize why it was so much fun to know it, because you do. For example, I do not like the game of football. I think it's stupid. I think it always has looked like a bunch of guys piling up in a big heap, and once one guy is tackled, why do 50 other guys have to jump into the pile? If you get what I'm saying, what's the point? Okay, well, but a couple of times I've been sitting in a group of people who actually understand football, which is possible. Like, for people who don't understand football, you almost have to convince us that anybody could possibly understand football because it seems so ridiculous. But when I'm watching football with people who actually understand football and they're patient with me, and I say, why did he do that? Well, what's that? What's that about? Why did the official go like this? Suddenly it's interesting. And astrology is a lot more fun than football because the outcomes are more directly involved with your life. Okay, so that little public service announcement being completed, the Sun is void of course. And when the Sun or the Moon are void of course, interesting things can happen. Interesting things can slip in. It is not always true, for example, in the case of the Moon, which is not void of course, the Sun is, But in the case of the moon, things don't go right when the decision is made or the announcement is made with the moon void of course. That's not true. Two examples I have are the film Star Wars opened with the moon void of course, Star Wars, and the iPhone came out with the moon void of course. Nobody can say those things went badly. Maybe they went according to a different plan than the original plan, but what doesn't? All right, so that said, the sun is going to be working its way through the late degrees of Pisces till tomorrow night. So that's an opening. That's an opening for unusual things to happen. It's an opening for unusual conversations to happen. So if there's a potentially difficult conversation you want to have it with the sun or the moon void, of course, and just try it. Okay, so, but speaking from a practical, mundane astrology standpoint, the time to take action is not until the sun changes signs to Aries. Now, the sun changing signs to Aries is the annual reset of the zodiac. The sun's position resets to midnight of what is called sidereal time. Sidereal time is the ability to track things against the backdrop of the stars, and it is a 24-hour metric splayed out over a calendar year, or over a solar year, better said, not a calendar year. Solar year, calendar year, they're pretty similar, but this is really the solar year, and the time, sidereal time, is told in a 24-hour clock, which tells you the position of the sun against the backdrop of the stars. And that is reconciled by this thing called the Aries Point. I always talk about the Aries Point, and I guess I'm so good at it that nobody says, "Hey, buddy, what's the Aries Point? And why do you say things like that the Aries Point via the sign Cancer?" So let me throw in a public service announcement for that also. When the sun enters Aries, which we'll do tomorrow night, Eastern Time, it goes to 0 Aries 0. Do you see that? 0 0 Aries 0 0. It is not really at 0 Aries 0 0 because there are arc seconds. It has to be at least a few arc seconds, or one arc second. That's a degree. That's an arc minute, a 60th of a degree. And then not shown are the arc seconds. Those are 60th of arc minutes. But it's in there in Aries. And when it is in Aries, it is opposite the, what you might call the Libra point. But nobody calls it the Libra point. It's just called the first degree of Libra. Need a redder pencil. So Libra begins right there. And when anything's hanging out in the first degree of Libra, that activates the Aries point. Now, what's this about? I'll get to that last. Or, for example, the first degree of Cancer, right about there. When something's in the first degree of Cancer, it activates the Aries point. Go fucking figure. When something's in the first degree of Capricorn, it activates the Aries point. All of these things, by the way, are the measurement of the degree. The points themselves, the equinox and solstice points, are about the way the angle of the sun's rays meets the surface of the earth. So astrology is all said to be celestial. It's about the stars, how are your stars, all this bullshit. Well, actually, most of astrology is about the sun shining on the planet. Barbara Hand Clow even says the way aspects work is, this is her theory, nobody's proven this, but it's a fun theory. Barbara Hand Clow is full of fun theories. That the sun picks up the positions of the planets and then broadcasts the information through sunlight. It's not about the gravity of Mars affecting you. But anyway, when the sun or anything is on the Aries point, it aspects the all the other points in the Aries point. And you can even go to the midpoints here in the fixed sign Leo, or here in the fixed sign Taurus, here in the fixed sign Aquarius, here in the fixed sign Scorpio. And those, all the cross-quarter days, those too influence or pick up on the qualities of, the qualities of the Aries point. Now, what are the qualities of the Aries point? Well, I used to say that it was where the personal is political. And that may be true. But I later decoded that to being some kind of basically feminist propaganda. Even got so close to the person who wrote the phrase, the personal is political, Carol Hamish, who didn't, upon interview by me, didn't seem to understand her own concept. And I had a very funny conversation with her and Betty Dodson, my good and great friend. But the idea that, do you want to switch cameras? Don't switch. The idea that there is some connection between the private realm and the public realm when the Aries point is activated is definitely what I have observed. It's almost like a repeating station. It's not an echo chamber, because that tends to echo things internally. What the Aries point does is it tends to extend things, or my favorite line lately from someone cooler than Red Stockings Radical Feminist Collective, sorry for anyone who's still a Red Stockings aficionado, I'm a red sweatshirt guy myself, is that David Byrne has that song Television Man. Fantastic song. Give it a listen. And he says, television made me what I am. The world crashes into my living room. That's the feeling of the Aries point, is the world crashes into your living room. Or, for example, imagine that you set your couch and coffee table and TV set up in a busy intersection, and the cars are all going around you, and you're just sort of sitting there eating your popcorn, watching Netflix in the middle of an intersection. That, too, is the feeling of the Aries point. And we might use this, what is I now understand to be a pernicious concept, that the personal is political. That also does work. I just don't like the idea anymore. I don't think that the content of your personal diary should ever be politicized unless you're, married to the President of the United States, or you are the President of the United States. Okay, then your diaries may be a political item, but in the even in the early broadcast era, the president was presumed to have privacy. And so I don't think the contents of your underwear drawer should be exposed by the deep state and broadcast, and you don't have to do it either. So that's my problem with the personal is political. But the larger problem is we are living in a time when the personal is widely construed as political, which means you have no privacy, and you have to do what you must do to get some of your privacy back. But I assure you, privacy, more than anything, is a state of mind, and it is the state of mind that has come under the assault of digital conditions and also television conditions when the world crashes into your living room. And as David Byrne sings, television made me what I am. How's that for a statement? Television made me what I am. David, birthday's coming up. We'll be hearing from him. All right, so we see a little bit about the Aries point and all that stuff. Now let's just look at this chart for a second. Well, I've got a second. Let's look at some of the implications. What we see in this chart is a lot of conjunctions forming. So we know that that Venus goes faster than Saturn. That's conjunction forming. We know that Mars goes faster than Saturn and is not about to go retrograde. We know that from the ephemeris. Mars is about to make a conjunction. That happens in about 3 weeks. We can also see that the moon, now in Leo, is going to come around to the zodiac like that. It's going to go underneath my paperclip. It's going to come all the way around and form a total solar eclipse in Aries. That's this. Probably all seen this chart 2,000 times. I can't shut up about it. And you can see that the eclipse happens near that orange horseshoe. That is the north node of the moon. And so when you see the sun approaching the north node, you know that an eclipse is coming. Before that, there's going to be the full moon. There's going to be a penumbral eclipse in Libra, which I should draw into this chart. That's happening in just a few days, because the moon is getting near full. The eclipse in Libra is going to be right there. That's on the 25th. And so when, how many days is that? That's about a week from now. Today's the 18th. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. It's weird working in all these time frames. Okay, so we also know that here's Jupiter and Uranus. We know that Jupiter moves more quickly than Uranus. Jupiter's number is lower. There's going to be a conjunction. That's on April 20th. We can see that Mercury is moving. It's slowing down. It's about to be retrograde in about 11 days. Mercury is about to make a conjunction to Chiron. So a lot of conjunctions are about to happen. A lot of cycles are about to turn over. And that's really one way to think of the history of our time, is a lot of cycles are turning over. And this is true in the very local sense. Most of these conjunctions are what I would call local conjunctions. They don't exist on a time frame of decades or hundreds of years. The slowest of the conjunctions is Jupiter conjunct Uranus, and that happens every 13 years. It's pretty special, and eclipses are all unusual. They're all distinctive and special, but some pigs are more equal than other pigs, and this eclipse is more equal than other eclipses. This eclipse, I think, is the most interesting eclipse since August 11th, 1999, the Grand Cross and total solar eclipse in Leo that is still active. You'll still see 18 and change, 19th degree of Leo show up in charts, making a special cameo appearance, reminding you that the events of 1999 and the millennial era are still with us today. So that's basically my talk. If we want to see the way these conjunctions look, which are a few degrees apart in all of these cases, just move the chart up to the 8th of April, and you can see that Mercury is conjunct Eris, and Chiron, the moon, and the sun. That's what makes this eclipse so special, is the alignment of Chiron, the moon, and the sun at 1924. You can see the Venus-Neptune conjunctions already happened. You can see that Saturn and Mars are leading into Nessus, and so forth, and so forth, and so on. So that's what I have to say. There's some signs, I think, that the sun should be in for an extra week for everyone's benefit, and Pisces is one of them. But alas, we are now about to move into the spring quadrant, where the light of the sun shines equally on all of the earth. That is to say, days will be the same length here in the Philippines and in Nova Scotia and in Yellowknife. There will be 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. And if you think the earth is flat, I would love to hear you explain that. Because, anyway. All right, I'm going to sign off. I'll be back later in the week for subscribers with the monthly horoscope and some kind of monthly article. I'm about to wrap up all horoscopes out through April. Incredibly, I've been a busy little writer, and it's a better way to do the horoscope, is just to write them all and then not worry about it for a few weeks, and then write them all over again. Here, as I started the horoscope in April of 1995. So this year is the Saturn return of the Planet Waves horoscope. I was doing mundane charts. I had an intern in town. We dug through. I would estimate a pile of paper. It was this big of a fish. Probably that's an under exaggeration. Went through every sheet of paper and I found the chart for the first Planet Waves horoscope. All right, I will sign off for now. I'll see you a little bit later in the week with a monthly horoscope and an article. A new Planet Waves TV and Planet Waves FM returns to regular programming on Friday. Good Lord willing. Thanks for your business and your trust, and bye for now.